The secret to mastering your mind. A nightly ritual for inner strength. Have you ever felt like you're running on a never-ending treadmill, with no idea where you're headed or why? Every day feels like a machine on repeat. Wake up, go to work, push through, get tired, sleep, and do it all over again. Despite this daily routine, there's a quiet feeling deep inside that something isn't quite right. You sense that life could be more fulfilling, more peaceful, more powerful, but you just can't figure out how to make it happen. It's as if you're searching for the right path, but no map exists. That if this sounds familiar, don't worry, you're not alone, and more importantly, you're not weak. The truth is, you just haven't been given the right tools yet. There's a philosophy that's been around for thousands of years, one that forged the minds of some of history's greatest leaders, including Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. It's called Stoicism. But don't be fooled. Stoicism doesn't promise you an easy life or a quick fix to all your problems. What it does give you is something far more powerful: control over the only thing you truly own, yourself. Stoicism is a mental armor, a philosophy that helps you navigate life's chaos with clarity, strength, and purpose. Imagine it like having an inner compass that helps you move through the noise and turbulence, guiding you back to what truly matters: your own mind, your own choices, and your own responses. This video isn't here to entertain you or provide a fleeting distraction. It's here to serve as a ritual, something you return to each night, a moment of reflection, a reminder that you're not a victim of your circumstances. You are the one who gets to decide how to face them. That no one cares as much as you think. Have you ever had one of those moments where you felt like you were the center of everyone's attention, only to realize that no one was actually watching? Picture this. You walk into a cafe and accidentally knock over a glass of water. It's awkward. You flush with embarrassment, convinced that everyone in the room is silently judging you, thinking about how clumsy you are. Your mind races, and you feel the weight of their imagined gazes. But then, just 5 minutes later, everyone is back to their screens, lost in their own thoughts, their private worries, and unfinished conversations. No one cares. In fact, no one even noticed. The truth is, the vast majority of people aren't paying attention to your small missteps. They're too busy with their own lives, their own problems, their own distractions. Our minds have a tendency to exaggerate how much others are noticing us. We are the main character in our own story. So naturally, we assume that others are paying close attention to every word we say and every move we make. But the reality is, they're not. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You shouldn't give circumstances the power to rouse anger, for they don't care at all." Life doesn't care about your little mistakes. People don't spend their days analyzing the things you do wrong. They're too busy living their own lives. So why should you care so much about what they might think? How many times have you delayed making a decision, whether it was sharing a post, voicing an idea in a meeting, or even wearing that bold outfit, because you were afraid of judgment? How many times have you trapped yourself in an invisible cage of fear, bound by the imagined eyes of others? Here's a simple exercise to help you break free. The next time you feel anxious about what people might think, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, are they really thinking about me? Or am I just making up that story in my head? Even better, take 1 minute each night to jot down 3 things you didn't do because you were worried about what others might think. After a week, you'll be surprised at how often you've been controlled by fears that never truly existed. That's the irony of it all. The more you think people are watching, the less authentic you become. The power of letting go of labels. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard once said, "Once you label me, you negate me." When we fear judgment, we start labeling ourselves based on what we believe others expect from us. And with every label, a little piece of our true selves fades away. We stop living and start performing. This is where Stoic philosophy steps in to guide us. It urges us to peel away those labels, to return to who we truly are, without needing proof, without needing permission. When you truly believe that no one is thinking about you as much as you think, something incredible happens. You begin to speak more freely, to act more honestly, and to feel lighter, like you've let go of a weight you didn't even know you were carrying. In that quiet space, you begin to see things more clearly. The worries, the insecurities, the shame. Are they real, or just the lingering echoes of an illusion you've been carrying with you? Feelings aren't facts now. Let's talk about something that trips most of us up: emotions. Stoicism doesn't deny the existence of emotions. It doesn't tell you to suppress your feelings or to act like they don't matter. What it does teach is that emotions aren't always the truth. In fact, they're often just reactions, reflexive responses of the mind to the outside world. Think about it. You get angry when someone says something offensive, but if those same words came from a child, you might just laugh. The point is, emotions aren't objective. They're influenced by memory, habit, and our lack of awareness. Yet, we often let them dictate our attitudes, choices, and even our futures. Epictetus wisely said, "What disturbs people is not things, but their judgments about things." Anger, jealousy, anxiety, they aren't actual events. They're what happens when we assign meaning to those events. Consider this: an unanswered email doesn't mean someone hates you. Cold glance doesn't mean betrayal. But because we've attached meaning to these things, we allow them to rule us. The stronger the emotion, the more convinced we are that it must be true. The more intense the feeling, the more we cling to it as if it's a compass, pointing us toward the truth, breaking free from emotional tyranny. But what if, instead of letting emotions define you, you learn to recognize them for what they really are: temporary reactions, fleeting and often misguided? What if, instead of allowing your emotions to dictate your actions, you chose to see them with a clear, rational mind, separating them from the facts of the situation? Imagine how much more in control you'd feel, how much more freedom you'd have. Stoicism offers us a powerful tool to break free from emotional tyranny: awareness. By cultivating awareness, we can begin to recognize that our emotions are not the truth, but rather temporary responses that can be questioned and reframed. Instead of being slaves to our feelings, we can choose how we respond to them, taking back control over our actions and choices as you move through life. Remember this: emotions are not facts. They are simply reflections of how we interpret the world around us. And the more aware you become of that fact, the more powerful you will feel in your ability to shape your own destiny. A nightly practice for transformation: the next time you find yourself consumed by anger, fear, or anxiety, take a moment to pause. Ask yourself, is this emotion the truth, or just my reaction to something I can't control? Reflect on your thoughts before they shape your reality. Make this a nightly practice. Before you sleep, take a few moments to check in with yourself. Reflect on the emotions you've experienced throughout the day. Were they true? Or were they simply reflections of the stories you told yourself? This practice will help you step out of the emotional whirlpool and find peace in the stillness. In the end, life isn't about avoiding emotions. It's about mastering them. It's about learning to control your reactions, to see things for what they truly are, and to rise above the noise of everyday life. And with Stoicism as your guide, you'll find that the journey isn't as difficult as it once seemed. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by your emotions or consumed by worry, remember this: you are the master of your mind. Your emotions don't define you, and with the right tools, you can navigate through life with clarity, strength, and purpose. The choice is yours. Mastering your emotions. The power of pausing and the ego's illusion. Remember what we talked about earlier. How emotions are not facts, but fleeting reactions. Well, let's dive deeper into that concept, because emotions have a sneaky way of distorting reality. And if you've ever found yourself overwhelmed with stress, only to look back later and realize you may have overreacted, you know exactly what I mean. Emotions have this power to cloud our judgment, turning small problems into mountains, and making us feel as if we're spiraling out of control. But here's the thing, you don't have to let them. The secret lies in giving yourself just a few seconds. Pause before you react. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Am I sure this reflects the truth of the situation? This simple question can be a game changer. It may only take a few moments, but those moments can transform your response, shift your perspective, and save you from making rash decisions you'll regret later. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds great, but how do I do this in the middle of my busy life? The answer is, it doesn't require a quiet room or a free afternoon. You can practice this pause anywhere. In the few seconds you're waiting for the elevator, when someone annoys you, or even when you feel left out. Every time your emotions spike, see it as an invitation to train yourself to respond differently. Imagine your mind as a room. Emotions are like guests, sometimes uninvited, but you can't stop them from entering. However, while they're there, you don't have to let them take control. You don't have to let them take over the TV, raid the fridge, or destroy your peace of mind. You are in charge of who stays in your mental space and how much influence they have. And guess what? Modern science backs this up. In cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, psychologists refer to the fusion of emotions and thoughts as one of the most dangerous thinking traps. It's when you let emotions dictate your actions, creating a cycle of reactive behavior that leads to stress, regret, and more stress. The philosopher Spinoza once said, "When a man is prey to his emotions, he is not his own master." Whether you're looking at it from ancient wisdom or modern psychological research, the message is clear. Emotions are data, not commands. They don't have to control you. Think about it. Emotions are like the weather. Sometimes, the storm clouds roll in and threaten to ruin your day. But you're the one at the helm, steering the ship. The storm may rage, but your hands stay firmly on the wheel. That's the essence of Stoicism, the ability to recognize the difference between how you feel and what is real. And when you can make that distinction, you unlock the power to navigate your emotions instead of being swept away by them. So, let this video serve as your reminder to return to this practice every night. a small ritual that reconnects you with the power you already have. You are not the wave crashing on the shore. You are the ocean, vast and unshaken. Letting go of the ego, the path to real growth now. Let's take this journey a step further. If we're talking about emotional control, there's another piece to the puzzle, the ego. In the words of Epictetus, he who thinks he has learned everything has learned nothing. It's a sharp and powerful reminder for anyone who confuses confidence with ego. Ego whispers to you, you've made it. You're good enough. But the moment you think that way, you close the door on all opportunities for growth. Why do so many people stop reading, skip workouts, or reject feedback? It's not always laziness. Often, it's the ego telling them, you're fine as you are. But in reality, that's the very thing that holds them back. Let me tell you a story that might hit a little too close to home. There was a man named David. He was a sharp programmer, the kind of guy who thought he was the smartest on his team. He could fix bugs faster than anyone, challenge others in meetings, and push the boundaries of his work. But then, his company switched to a new tech stack. Everyone else on the team dove into learning the new system. Everyone except David. I already know this, he said. 6 months later, David was the only one who couldn't keep up. He was eventually reassigned to testing. During lunch one day, a teammate pulled him aside and said, "What brought you down wasn't lack of skill. It was thinking you had nothing left to learn." Does that story sound familiar? Maybe not the tech part, but the underlying message is universal. The ego whispers, "You're good enough. No need to learn more." And the moment we stop being open to growth is the moment we start to fall behind. If that story struck a chord with you, then the truth is knocking at your door. The question is, have you ever resisted change just to protect your ego? Have you stayed silent even when you were wrong because pride got in the way? Here's something practical you can do tonight. Before you go to bed, write down one thing you don't know and one person you could learn it from. Don't pick someone impressive. Don't go for the obvious choice. Instead, pick someone you once dismissed, someone whose opinions you may have ignored. By doing this, you break the grip of the ego, the illusion that it's protecting you when, in reality, it's keeping you stuck. The scripture says, God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble. Humility opens the door to real growth. You don't need to be perfect, but if you're too proud to learn, you will inevitably fall behind, even when it looks like you're ahead. Remember, ego isn't you. It's just the echo of your fear of being unseen or unimportant. Real growth begins when you're open to being critiqued, when you're willing to be challenged, when you're brave enough to be the beginner again. Empty. Hands, open mind. Once you understand this, something beautiful happens. You stop trying to please everyone. You realize you don't need many people. You just need one version of yourself that's honest enough to face the truth. But that's a story for another day. You don't need many people. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't have a name. It's the tiredness that comes from maintaining relationships we no longer believe in. The tiredness of smiling at the right moment, texting back promptly, matching the tone of a conversation just to hold on to people who were never really there. We keep doing it because we're afraid of something that sounds irrational, the fear of having fewer people around. You've probably heard the saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. It sounds wise, right? But here's the catch. They forget one thing. Sometimes, going far requires you to let go of the relationships that drain you, the ones that hold no real meaning, and to embrace the quiet power of solitude. You don't need many people around you, just the right ones. And above all, you need to be in touch with yourself, without the noise of others telling you to be E.so. Ask yourself this: what relationships are truly adding value to your life? What are you holding on to just because you're afraid to let go? Once you start answering those questions, you'll realize the true power lies in choosing quality over quantity, because in the end, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one with yourself. As we talked about earlier, the people you surround yourself with can shape the path you take in life. But are you holding on to certain relationships just because you're afraid of being seen as alone? Here's something interesting. The more condensed something is, the more valuable it becomes. Think of condensed gold, condensed time, and even condensed friendship. Lucius understood this truth. Lucius worked at a major advertising agency, always attending packed meetings and buzzing networking events. His calendar was constantly filled, weeks in advance, with events and obligations. But when he suddenly lost his job, not a single person from his professional circle reached out. A week later, he held a birthday dinner, expecting to be surrounded by friends and acquaintances. Yet, only one person showed up: his younger brother, the same brother Lucius had often neglected. Choosing work over family time. In that moment, Lucius had a realization: crowds don't offer true support. Sincerity doesn't need a crowd. Have you ever experienced something like this? The more people you have around, the more you feel like you have to present a version of yourself that's more palatable, more acceptable. But Stoicism doesn't teach you to please everyone. It teaches you how to choose wisely. As Seneca once said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. Relationships shouldn't feel like a burden you carry around. They should be a space in which you grow, not a weight that drags you down. So ask yourself, are you growing with someone, or are you slowly being worn down by them? Now here's something hard but necessary. Stop trying so hard to keep up with people who drain you. You don't have to cut them off completely. Just go quiet for a while and see who fades away and who stays. The answer will be clearer than you expect. Fulfillment doesn't come from numbers. It comes from depth. One honest conversation can be more valuable than 100 polite text messages. One person who genuinely cares can outweigh an entire world of digital noise. If you've ever felt surrounded yet empty, leave a comment below, not to be heard, but so someone else knows they're not alone. Solitude builds strength. Some nights, the room can feel strangely bigger, not because the space itself has changed, but because the emptiness inside makes everything around you seem to echo your own sighs. In those moments, loneliness stops being an abstract concept. It becomes something you can almost feel, like a shadow sitting quietly at the edge of your bed. But here's the thing: loneliness isn't here to harm you. It's here to teach you what the crowd never could. We grow up believing that happiness is linked to the presence of others. We think we need a constant stream of conversation, back-to-back messages, and laughter echoing in a cafe to be happy. Silence is often seen as a signal that something's wrong. But that's the game of an untrained mind. A Stoic mind doesn't run from loneliness. It faces it head-on, like a soldier sharpening his sword after battle. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." So why do we let the noise of the outside world drown out the quiet within us? Try this. Spend 10 minutes each night in complete silence. No music, no phone, no bright lights. Just you and your breath. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but soon you'll realize that you don't need anyone else to feel whole. When embraced in the right way, loneliness becomes a mental training ground. It gives you the chance to observe your thoughts without interruption. Can you identify the thoughts you replay every day? Do you know which voices in your head are truly yours and which ones were planted by others? Ironically, many people feel most lost when surrounded by others because they lack company, because they get away from themselves. For too long, that's why. Even though Stoic and Buddhist philosophy may seem very different on the surface, they overlap in a important way. Stillness opens the door to the inner world. You don't need to escape to a remote place to find peace. Just sit still and face yourself. If you truly want to master your mind, live a small part of each day like a hermit. You don't need to go to extremes, just silence, stillness, and no scrolling. You don't need anyone to validate that you're okay. Stillness isn't boredom, that it's the space where depth is born. And from that space, you'll stop fearing loneliness because you'll learn that in solitude, you can finally hear the voice within, the one that points you in the right direction. Have you ever sat alone and felt truly at peace? Or do you always reach for something to fill the silence? That's a question worth asking yourself every night. Because if you can't be alone with yourself, you're giving away most of your mental power to others. Loneliness isn't the enemy. It's a quiet teacher, stern but fair. And if you're brave enough to sit with it, you'll grow stronger than anyone who has spent their entire life surrounded by noise, as we discussed earlier. The way you handle your past, especially your mistakes, has a huge impact on your present and future. But what if, instead of dwelling on regrets, you took control of your actions and thoughts? What if, rather than being stuck in the past, you learned how to break free from it and move forward? There are nights when you lie in the dark, not to rest, but to interrogate yourself. You replay moments in your mind. Why did I do that? If only I had chosen differently. These questions echo like a needle scratching over the same spot. You think you're holding yourself accountable, but in truth, you're just trapping yourself in the past, unaware that it's dragging you down. A Stoic doesn't avoid pain. They face it head on, but they don't allow it to control their actions. As Marcus Aurelius reminded us, don't let your reflections on the whole sweep of life crush you. Don't fill your mind with all the bad things that might still happen. Stay focused on the present situation and ask yourself why it's so unbearable and why you think it can't be survived. Regret only matters if it leads to action. If it just keeps dragging you back into old memories, leaving you frozen in guilt, then it's no longer self-awareness. It's self-destruction. Made a mistake? Good. The only people who never make mistakes are those who never truly lived. But here's the question you need to ask yourself. Will you keep carrying that mistake like a stone in your shoe, or will you set it down and move on? Forgiving yourself isn't about feeling better. It's about freeing the energy you're wasting on something that can't be undone. Think about it like this. It's like dropping a bottle of water on the floor. The only reasonable response is to clean it up, not to stand there all day saying, I should have held it tighter. So ask yourself, how much time did I waste today blaming myself instead of doing something about it? This is a question worth reflecting on, because the more you focus on guilt and self-blame, the more energy you drain from yourself. You could be channeling that energy into making positive changes instead. Are you refusing to forgive yourself because you think you have to carry this burden forever? But you don't have to pay for the rest of your life for a mistake made by a version of yourself that no longer exists, unless, of course, you keep acting as if that version is still in charge. And if you really want to move forward, try something simple. Write down the one thing you're most ashamed of lately. Then ask yourself, what am I doing to make sure it doesn't happen again? The more specific your answer, the lighter your next step will feel. Wisdom isn't about avoiding mistakes. It's about knowing when to pause, face yourself, and say, that's enough. I've learned what I needed to learn. Forgiving yourself doesn't make you weak. It frees your hands to start doing what's right. If you've made it this far, you're not just listening, you're confronting. And that's something most people never dare to do. Like this video, as a way of saying, I'm not going back there again. Stick with us until the end, because every part that follows isn't just advice. It's a piece of the bigger picture, one that leads to a clear-headed, grounded, and strong life. Number 7. High expectations hurt. We often expect the world to please us, to meet our needs and desires, and then feel disappointed when it doesn't play along. But Stoics remind us, when you are delighted with anything, be delighted as with something not your own. When a loved one dies, say, I have given him back. Don't cling to what you can't control. Expectations are like anchors dropped into the ocean, but the world is a boat that never stays still. Someone once asked me, should I stop expecting anything at all? No, that's not the point. Expect, but turn that expectation inward. Don't expect to reap what you haven't sown. Don't long to be loved the way you want if you haven't yet learned to love others the way they need. Let me tell you about a man named Daniel. You might see a piece of yourself in his story, or at least recognize a part of you that once thought like he did. Daniel was a banker, hardworking, dependable, always hoping his efforts would be recognized. He stayed late, picked up slack from his teammates, and quietly wished for a promotion. But when the opportunity came, it went to someone else, someone newer with less experience. Daniel was crushed. He lost his drive. He started to believe life was unfair. One night, sitting alone, he thought to himself, I've been living by other people's expectations, not by my own standards. That moment changed him. He began to shift, setting his own standards. He started doing things because they mattered, not because they might earn him something. Daniel's story isn't just meant to move you. It's meant to reveal something crucial. Expectations often pull us away from the present. If your mind is constantly stuck on what should happen, you'll miss what is actually happening right in front of you. And here's the simplest practice to break free from that. Every time you feel disappointment rising, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what was I expecting just now? Was it something I could control? If not, let it go. It's like grasping a hot stone. Holding on to it only burns you. So release it. Let go of the weight of expectations that aren't yours to carry, and instead focus on the present. You might be surprised at how much lighter you feel. As we've discussed, life's impermanence often catches us off guard. We cling to the things we love, expecting them to stay forever, but nothing does. Nothing lasts forever. One day, the shirt you love will fray and tear. Your closest friend might change, move away, or drift into different phases of life. The hair you carefully brush every morning will eventually turn gray. Everything changes. And because of that, everything becomes precious. We live as though things will last forever, only to feel betrayed when they don't. But have you ever asked yourself why we cling so tightly to things that we know will slip away? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." You can't hold on to the wind, just as you can't keep people by your side forever. Instead of grieving the truth, the Stoic learns to love life because it is fragile. Think about it. Picture yourself looking at an old family photo. The faces, the expressions, the gestures, they're frozen in a moment that will never return. What makes that photo beautiful isn't its perfection, but the fact that it is unrepeated. It captures something that is now part of the past, a piece of time that can never be relived. Everything we love will eventually disappear. But this isn't a tragedy. It's a reminder to stay awake to what we have, while we still have it, living. This way doesn't require grand gestures. It can be as simple as this. Each morning, before checking your phone, take a moment to look around. Look at the person you're living with. Feel the warmth of the sunlight through the window. Savor the aroma of your coffee. Then say quietly to yourself, "This moment may never come again." Just that one sentence can slow the world down. It brings you into the present and reminds you to appreciate the fleeting nature of time. When you're talking to someone, imagine that it's the last time you'll hear their voice. Don't do this to feel sad, but to truly listen. It's the nearness of goodbye that makes love deeper, that makes us more attentive to the people we care about. Some people believe that understanding impermanence makes life bleak, but the truth is, it actually gives you strength. Once you truly grasp that everything can be lost, you stop taking anything for granted. You begin to live with gratitude instead of complaints. You act instead of waiting. You forgive, knowing that no one stays long enough to hate forever. Impermanence doesn't darken life. It makes it shine. Have you ever thanked someone you love? Not for something big they did, but simply because they're still here with you in this moment? If not, do it today. Pause, take a breath, and see the familiar with fresh eyes. Let the future's inevitable losses remind you to live more fully right now. So, if you truly understand that nothing lasts forever, comment, "Nothing lasts," to mark the moment you began living more consciously, starting today. Number 9. Time can't be bought. You can lose money and earn it back. You can lose a job and find another. You can lose love and fall in love again. But once time passes, it never returns. The most valuable thing you're losing every day makes no sound. It's time. People fear losing money, yet they spend time as if they have an endless supply. Have you ever noticed how often we put off what truly matters, just to do things that don't? Mindless scrolling, endless small talk, waiting for the right time to finally start living. The problem is that moment, the right time, never comes. Why are we so protective of our possessions, yet so generous with the one thing we can never buy back? Maybe you should hear this story, not because it's dramatic, but because it's quietly happening all around you. Jacob is a 54-year-old baker living in a coastal town. He wakes at 4 a.m. every morning and has been baking for 30 years, almost without pause. He once promised his wife that they would go to Italy, her dream, once they saved enough to open a bakery of their own. After years of hard work, they finally saved enough. But by then, his wife had fallen ill. The trip never happened. The day she died, Jacob didn't cry. He baked an almond tart, her favorite, and placed it beside their wedding photo. He sat there, watching the tart cool, never taking a bite. No one really understood why he did this, but he did it because what he thought was waiting for the right time turned out to be time that never came. And that tart, that was the apology he never got to say out loud. Jacob didn't quit his job, but from that day on, every afternoon, he took a 30-minute walk along the beach, alone with his thoughts. He had learned something powerful. Time doesn't wait for anyone, and sometimes we need to stop waiting for the perfect moment to live our lives that we often think that we have all the time in the world. But if you understand that time is fleeting, that it can slip through your fingers like sand, you'll begin to appreciate every second. Time is the one thing that once lost can never be regained. Make sure you're spending yours wisely with the people you love and on the things that matter. As we discussed earlier, it's not about drastically changing everything in your life. It's about making small, intentional choices. Jacob's life didn't transform because of one huge shift. No phone, no watch. He didn't need to change everything. He just stopped trading his time for things that didn't truly matter. So, take a moment to ask yourself, what are you trading your time for? Is it worth it? If you're unsure, that's your signal to pause. Here's something simple that works. Every morning, write down just one thing. One thing that, if you did it today, you wouldn't regret if tomorrow never came. Just one thing. That's it. Then let the rest of your day feel lighter. Eventually, you'll realize that the most precious things in life don't cost money, but they do cost your time. And that's the one thing you can never afford to waste. Number 10. Money is just a tool. Money is a tool, but somehow, people lose sleep over it as though it defines their worth. But in truth, it's just a knife, sharp and dangerous. If you don't know how to hold it properly, you'll end up cutting yourself. And yet, the irony is that we often treat this knife like jewelry, something to flaunt or measure success by. Ever notice how we trade 8 hours a day for money, only to turn around and spend that same money to try to buy back our time? We spend it on vacations, gadgets, or just a few stolen minutes of peace. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom, and then using the same money to buy duct tape to patch it. Maybe the real shift isn't about making more money, but about wanting less. Epictetus once said something simple that most people overlook. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. True wealth isn't about accumulating more. It's about practicing restraint. But society doesn't teach us that. It teaches us to compare, to hustle for things we don't need, to impress people we don't even care about. You're running, but there's no finish line. Now, imagine this. If you woke up tomorrow and money was no longer a concern, what would you do differently? If your answer isn't nothing, then maybe you're headed in the wrong direction. Money should be the wheels that take you where you want to go, not the one driving the car. So here's a small practice to help you live with more intention. Before bed, don't open your banking app, check crypto prices, or scroll through economic headlines. Instead, ask yourself, what did I do today that didn't cost a cent but made me feel alive? Write down just one thing. Just one. That's how you take the wheel back. You don't need to reject money entirely, but you do need to treat it like a sharp blade. It can help you build something or hurt you if you start swinging it around mindlessly. If you really want to change your relationship with money, don't start with budgets or investments. Start with something small, something you do every day. It's the small daily habits that shape your fate. And that's the part you can't afford to skip tomorrow night. Number 11. Habits shape destiny. You don't need a dramatic turning point to change your life. What you really need is to brush your teeth on time. Sounds trivial, right? But it's the small, everyday actions that shape your future. Reading a page, getting up when the alarm rings, choosing to walk instead of scrolling for 10 more minutes. These are the quiet moments that form your destiny. People often wait for a breakthrough moment, a crisis, a mentor, or a sudden surge of inspiration. But real life doesn't work like the movies. Destiny doesn't crash into your life with thunder and fanfare. It whispers through the alarm clock you snooze for the 7th day in a row. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You must build up your life action by action and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible, and no one can keep you from this." In other words, you don't need permission to live right. You don't need the perfect moment to start. Small actions done consistently carve your character, just like water slowly shaping stone. Have you noticed that most successful people don't have one big, life-changing moment? What they do have is rock solid habits. On the flip side, people who stay stuck often cling to the fantasy that one special day will reset their lives. But if you can't wash the dishes on time, you won't be leading a team anytime soon. Habits are like thread, thin, fragile, almost invisible. But so with them long enough, and they become your armor. Try this. Write down one thing you know you need to do. Not something big, just something right. Then commit to doing it every day for 7 days. No announcements, no social media, just you and the act. That quiet moment is where your willpower gets forged. Remember, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So ask yourself, what are you repeating every day? Where is it taking you? Are you living with intention or just reacting? Are you reaching for your phone before you even open your eyes? Checking social media before checking in with yourself? And if you're about to scroll to the next video, pause for 10 seconds, take a breath, reflect. You're not just shaping your day, you're shaping your future. As we've explored earlier, the small actions we take each day can shape the course of our lives. These actions may seem trivial at first, but over time, they build something far greater than the sum of their parts. Ask yourself, if I did this one small thing every day, what would my life look like in a year? One step alone may not get you to your goal, but without it, you'll never move at all. What's your take on this? Do you believe in the power of small habits, or are you still waiting for that right day to finally start living right? Drop a thought below. Let's make this last lesson a real conversation. Number 12. Respect the body. We're constantly tidying up our spaces, locking doors, checking our phones, and plugging in our chargers every night. But how often do we stop and ask ourselves, how did I treat my body today? In a world where our phones are charged more carefully than the people using them, taking care of our bodies has sadly become an afterthought. That we skip meals to meet deadlines, stay up late to unwind from an exhausting day, and sip our third cup of coffee just to stay functional. But here's the thing, the body is not a machine. It's a temple, and your mind is what lives inside it. When the body is drained, the mind becomes unbalanced. Sleep too little, and you'll be easily irritated and unable to focus. Eat poorly, and your thinking turns foggy, sluggish. We often think we're facing a mental crisis, But the real issue could lie on our plate, under our blanket, or in the legs we haven't moved in days. Imagine a priest stepping into a temple. That's dusty, dark, and moldy. Could he pray in peace? Yet somehow, we expect our minds to be sharp and strong, while our bodies are treated as though they're just temporary storage. The irony is that the more we live in our heads, the more we forget the home we live in. The body. Your body isn't something to endure just so your mind can soar. It's the foundation, the ground where everything else grows. Have you noticed that when your body feels good, you're more patient, more clear-headed, more forgiving? But how quickly can everything shift when a bad night's sleep or a small headache throws your thoughts into chaos? That's why taking a walk, staying hydrated, and sleeping on time aren't just health tips. They're acts of philosophy. Each time you choose a nourishing meal over fast food, you're practicing willpower. Each time you close your screen early and go to bed, you're building mental discipline. So before you scroll for another 10 minutes, ask yourself, has your temple, your body, been cared for today? Has it been given rest? Or is it still struggling under your neglect? If you want a strong, resilient mind, start with the place it. Life's tonight. Let your body be heard. Go to sleep. Drink some water. Breathe deeply. Because if you can't honor the temple, how can you expect to find peace within it? We've just explored 12 core principles of Stoic philosophy. These aren't meant to be memorized. They're meant to be lived by. Each of these ideas serves as a mirror, reflecting how we see the world and ourselves. Remember, other people's. Attention doesn't define you. Money is a tool, not a destination. Loneliness isn't weakness. It's where inner strength begins. Time, once gone, can't be bought back. And forgiveness, self-awareness, discipline, letting go of expectations, and accepting loss. These are all quiet but powerful steps toward inner mastery. Stoicism isn't flashy. It doesn't need applause. It's steady, like a small flame in the dark, just enough to light the path for those who truly want to keep walking. Revisit these reminders each night, not because you're weak, but because you're training yourself. To be steady. If this video brought you a bit more clarity, a moment of calm, or simply made you feel a little less lost, don't forget to hit like if you haven't already. Share it with someone close to you, someone who might need a moment of grounding. And subscribe to the Stoic Wisdom channel. There's more Stoic wisdom on the way, waiting for you each night, like a quiet companion reminding you, you are stronger than you think.